Well, small caps have been on a tear this week, up nearly 2% as investors rotate out of the big tech names and move into small cap stocks. To discuss, we've got Yahoo Finance's very own Julie Hyman here with us in studio. Hey, Julie.
Hi, Brad. Yes, we have seen a big gain in small caps. And just to back up for a second, to sort of set the table on what we're talking about, small cap stocks generally have a market valuation of between $250 million and $2 billion. Mid caps, so when you hear those mentioned in conversation, $2 to $10 billion, and large caps tend to be $10 billion to $200 billion, and up from there, of course, because we have some multi-trillion-dollar valuations now when we talk about the mega caps. So that's what we're talking about in general when we're talking about the small caps. And if you look at how these have done, and this is the returns from when we got the CPI report through yesterday. This explains a little bit the timing, that is, as to why these stocks have done so well. And what you're looking at here is the Russell 2000, which is small caps, versus the S&P Equal Weight Index and the S&P 500. The Equal Weight Index just shows as if every stock had an equal weighting. The S&P 500 is market cap weighted. So this shows that there has been pretty broad participation, but that the small caps have been the winners. So what changed with that CPI report? It was another report that showed inflation is moderating and raised those expectations that the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates come September. Why is that benefiting small caps more than the others? Well, small caps have underperformed this year. They also tend to carry more debt. So the perception is that when rates start to come down, that it will be more beneficial to those companies. That's just one of the reasons why we've seen them do well. So this is through yesterday. We've started to see this rally, though, and the rotation start to roll over a little bit, and that continues today. We've got the Russell 2000 down about 0.5% in today's session. If you look at the full week here, you'll see the peak and then a little bit of a come down. And if you look at that in contrast with those two other indices we were just looking at, the S&P Equal Weight has done the same thing, but it's underperformed the small caps, and so has the S&P 500. In other words, the small caps have started to now come down, but it's still outperforming on the week and on the 2-week period these other bigger cap stocks that we have been watching, which has been interesting.
And so is everyone on the small cap bandwagon? I mean, how many are perhaps saying, yeah, small caps, here we go from here?
Yeah,
or are there skeptics out there?
Yeah, there are definitely skeptics out there, right? There are definitely skeptics out there who are not all in on this. We talked to Ed Yardeni of Yardeni Research the other day, and he said there's short covering that is happening. So part of this is a short squeeze, which implies that it's perhaps not as sustainable. One of the other skeptics out there is Eric Johnston over at Cantor Fitzgerald. And among other things, he is looking at the profit forecasts for these small cap companies. As Savita Subramanian over at Bank of America points out, about a third of the companies in that Russell 2000 index don't make money. They're unprofitable. But looking at it another way, as Johnston does, here's the profit margins on a historical basis. And so you see the trajectory is kind of downward. And as he points out, this is the 10-year average profit margin. We're kind of bumping right around there. In other words, we're not seeing above average profitability for these companies at a time when people are pouring in. Johnston also points out that the valuations are relatively high given this kind of profit profile. Finally, to go back to Subramanian from Bank of America, while she pointed out the weakness in some of the small caps, she's still a buyer of certain subsectors, and she talks about buying higher quality small caps. So in other words, even for people who are looking at small caps, they're not necessarily looking at the complex as a whole. They're taking another look, but then using other filters to figure out what to buy.
All right, keeping the pulse on small caps for us here, Julie Hyman. Julie, thanks so much.